Have you ever stopped and wondered, what if the biggest problem in your life isn't a lack of money, not a lack of time, not bad luck, but one thing you've been carrying with you all along? Your mind. The same mind that has the power to give you a fresh beginning every morning. And the same mind that quietly pulls you back into yesterday's chains every night. What's strange is this. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change their circumstances, without ever trying to change their thoughts. They want different results, but they keep the same thinking. They want a different future, but they never rewrite the program running beneath it. And that silent mistake is what causes so many people, years later, to stare at their lives and ask, why did nothing ever change? Now imagine I told you that the next 30 days could become the most important days of your life. You'd probably be skeptical. Most people are. But here's the truth. The person you are today is the result of the thoughts you've been repeating up until this moment. And the person you'll become 30 days from now will be shaped by the thoughts you begin repeating today. Because human beings don't live inside reality alone. They live inside the stories their minds create about reality. Picture an ocean, calm on the surface, silent, still, but deep beneath the water. Powerful currents are moving with unstoppable force. Your life works the same way. People see your results, but they never see your thoughts. They see success. They see failure, but they never hear the quiet conversations happening inside your head. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Maybe this is just how my life is supposed to be. Those aren't just thoughts. They're instructions, commands, and your brain is an incredibly loyal servant. It doesn't argue. It doesn't question. It obeys. If you tell it every day that you're weak, it will find ways to make weakness feel true. If you tell it every day that you're destined to fail, it will search for evidence to support that belief. But if you convince it, truly convince it, that change is possible, your mind begins scanning the world differently. Suddenly, opportunities appear where there were only obstacles. Paths emerge where there once seemed to be walls. Doors become visible that you never noticed before. This is what brain reprogramming really is. Not magic. Not a secret reserved for a select few. Not an overnight success story. It's a silent battle. A battle that isn't fought in the outside world, but in the unseen landscape within. The ancient Stoics understood something most people still miss today. Life itself doesn't break people. Their interpretation of life does. The rain falls on everyone. Storms visit every doorstep. Difficulty enters every life. Yet people respond in completely different ways. Why? Because the event is the same, but the program running inside the mind is different. One person sees an obstacle and gives up. Another sees the same obstacle and builds a staircase from it. The difference isn't luck. The difference isn't destiny. The difference is the software operating beneath the surface. And perhaps the most dangerous part of all, most people don't even know that program exists. They believe they're making free choices, but their decisions, their fears, their habits, their reactions are often being driven by code written years ago, words spoken in childhood, old wounds that never healed, past failures, harsh criticism, moments long forgotten by memory, but never forgotten by the mind. Imagine a dark room, locked shut for years. No sunlight, no fresh air, no sign of life, just shadows. Then one day, someone opens a small window, just a crack. A single beam of light slips inside. The darkness doesn't disappear instantly, but its reign begins to end. The room starts changing, quietly, gradually, inevitably. Your mind works the same way. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need to become a completely different person tomorrow. You only need to let a little light in. One new thought, one new habit, one new decision, and then something begins to happen. Something most people call a miracle, when in reality, it's simply a new program taking control. But this raises an important question. If the brain can truly be rewired, if change is actually possible, then why do most people find themselves standing in the exact same place 30 days later? Why do they walk all the way to the door of transformation, only to turn around and return to the darkness they were trying to escape. And what is the silent mistake? The one almost everyone makes, that pulls them back just when change is finally within reach. Because the problem isn't that people don't want to change. The problem is that most people misunderstand what change actually is. They imagine change as a dramatic breakthrough, a burst of motivation, a powerful speech, a single life-changing moment that flips everything overnight. But the mind doesn't work that way. The mind doesn't change through noise. It changes through repetition, through silence, through consistency, like water shaping stone, not in a single day, not through force, but through a quiet persistence that eventually alters the landscape itself. This is the secret the world's highest performers eventually discover. They don't focus on changing their lives. They focus on changing their days, because they understand something most people overlook. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and months become a new identity. Here's a truth many people don't like hearing. Your current personality is not your destiny. It's a collection of patterns, a reflection of habits repeated so often that they began to feel permanent. What you think every day, you become. What you do every day becomes who you are. And perhaps the most dangerous part of all, your brain starts treating repetition as truth. If you feel fear every day, your mind concludes that the world is dangerous. If you doubt yourself every day, your mind assumes weakness is part of your nature. If you procrastinate every day, your brain slowly accepts procrastination as your identity. And eventually, you stop questioning it. You simply become it. But that raises an interesting question. If repetition creates identity, can a new repetition create a new identity? Absolutely. And that is the foundation of the 30-day rule. But before we go any further, there's something most people need to understand. Something that changes everything once you truly see it. You are not your thoughts. Read that again. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. At first, that distinction seems small, almost insignificant. But in reality, it can transform an entire life. Because the moment you realize that not every thought deserves your belief, you begin to experience freedom. Imagine standing beside the ocean. Waves are rolling in endlessly. Some are calm, some are violent, some are powerful enough to shake the shoreline. Would you jump into every wave that appears? Of course not. You would simply watch them pass. Thoughts work the same way. They arrive, they leave, they rise, they disappear. The problem is that most people mistake every thought for their identity. I am a failure. I am weak. I'll never become successful. Those are thoughts, not facts. But when repeated often enough, the mind stops seeing the difference. That's why the first principle of brain reprogramming is awareness, observation, conscious attention, learning to watch without immediately reacting, without fighting, without running away, without judgment, just observing. For the next 30 days, if you do only one thing, make it this. Watch your thoughts. Don't become their servant. Don't automatically obey them. Observe them. The way the sky watches clouds drift by, the way the ocean watches waves rise and fall, the way time silently witnesses everything passing through it. And then something strange begins to happen. For the first time, you notice there are two voices inside you. One voice creates fear, creates excuses, pulls you back toward familiar darkness, back toward old patterns, back toward the person you've always been. And then there's another voice, much quieter, much deeper, much calmer. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand attention. But somehow, it knows. It knows that you are far more capable than you've allowed yourself to believe. Most people spend their entire lives listening to the first voice, and the second voice remains buried beneath years of noise. But the people who truly transform themselves learn to strengthen that quieter voice. A little each day, 1% at a time, one step at a time. This is why the 30-day rule isn't built on motivation. Motivation fades. Identity remains. You do not create results first. You create identity first. And identity creates results. But hidden beneath all of this is another secret, one that most people never fully understand. Because reprogramming the mind requires more than new thoughts, more than positive affirmations, more than awareness alone. There is something even more powerful than thought itself. Something operating beneath every belief, beneath every habit, beneath every decision. And if that deeper force remains unchanged, a person will continue becoming the very thing they're trying to escape. That thing is emotion, because the mind learns far less from words than it does from feelings. This is why you can read 100 books about confidence, memorize every quote, underline every lesson, repeat every affirmation, and still feel trapped by self-doubt. Because if fear is still living beneath the surface, your brain will trust the fear, not the words. You can tell yourself every day that success is coming. You can repeat it in the mirror, write it in a journal, say it before bed. But if defeat still lives in your emotional world, your decisions will continue to reflect defeat. Because the brain doesn't respond most strongly to what you say. It responds to what you feel. And this is where most people fail. They change their language, but never heal their emotions. They try to replace thoughts, while ignoring the wounds that created those thoughts in the first place. Then they wonder why nothing changes. Imagine a gardener watering the leaves of a tree every day, while its roots remain dry. Will the tree survive? Of course not. Because life doesn't exist in the leaves. Life exists in the roots. And your emotional state is the root system of your entire life. Which means the goal of the next 30 days isn't simply to think positive thoughts. The real goal is to transform your emotional environment. Because your life is ultimately a reflection of your emotional baseline. If anxiety constantly lives within you, even opportunity will look like danger. If fear dominates your inner world, even success will feel overwhelming. If you carry a deep sense of scarcity, no amount of abundance will ever feel like enough. But when peace begins to grow inside you, even storms lose their power. The ancient Stoics understood something remarkable. True strength is not found in controlling everything around you. It's found in mastering your response to it. The world is not under your control. Other people are not under your control. Circumstances are not under your control. But one thing remains yours. Always. Your response. The space between what happens and how you choose to react. That is where freedom is born. When someone ignores you and you don't crumble. When someone doubts you and you don't forget your worth. When life becomes uncertain and you don't lose your direction. At that moment, you are doing more than becoming stronger. You are beginning to rewire your mind. Because the brain records every response. Every single one. Every time you move forward despite fear, the mind creates a new pathway. Every time you choose action over excuses, the mind updates its identity. Every time you take a step despite uncertainty, the old programming loses a little more of its power. And these are the moments people usually overlook. They seem small, ordinary, forgettable. But the truth is, lives are transformed by small moments, not by dramatic revolutions. Not by one perfect day, not by a single burst of motivation, but by quiet decisions, made when nobody is watching, waking up when you promised you would, finishing the difficult task, keeping your word, rejecting an excuse, taking action while fear is still present. These moments appear insignificant, but to the brain, they are evidence. Evidence of a new person emerging, and the brain believes evidence, not wishes. Not fantasies, not intentions. Which brings us to the most important rule of the next 30 days. Stop making promises to yourself. Start giving yourself proof. Every day, small, real, visible proof. Proof that you are becoming the person you want to be. And then, something fascinating begins to happen. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, you stop depending on motivation. You begin to feel discipline. You no longer try to build confidence. You become confidence. You stop chasing success, and your identity starts pulling success toward you. But the journey isn't over yet, because there is still one final enemy waiting in the shadows. an enemy that appears every time someone gets close to real transformation. It doesn't exist out in the world. It doesn't arrive in the form of another person. It lives inside you, hidden, patient, silent. And the most surprising part? Most people mistake it for a friend, when in reality, it is the very thing that destroys their 30-day transformation before it ever has a chance to become permanent. That final enemy is the comfort zone, the silent prison where people feel safe, but never grow. It doesn't scare you. It doesn't attack you. It doesn't force you to stop. It simply whispers something far more dangerous. Start tomorrow. And that's where its power comes from. Most dreams don't die because of failure. They die because of delay. They die waiting. They die beneath the illusion that there's still plenty of time. They die under the comforting lie of, not yet. And then one day, a person looks back over their shoulder and realizes years have passed. The seasons changed. The world moved forward. But they remained exactly where they started. So if you truly want to reprogram your mind, don't spend the next 30 days searching for some magical technique. Remember 3 things: awareness, emotion, and action. Observe your thoughts. Listen to your emotions. And every day, take one step in favor of the person you're becoming, no matter how small that step may seem. Because time is a river, and rivers never stop flowing. The question is not whether the next 30 days will pass. They will, without your permission, without hesitation, without mercy. The real question is this: 30 days from now, will you still be the same person? Or will someone new emerge from the shadows? Maybe 1 month from today, your entire life won't look dramatically different. Maybe the people around you won't notice a change. Maybe the world won't immediately reward your effort. But if for 30 straight days, you give your mind a new direction, you give your thoughts a new source of light, you give your actions a new identity, then something will change, without question, and that something will be your inner world. And when the inner world changes, the outer world rarely takes long to follow, because every building exists as a blueprint before it becomes reality. Every journey begins in the mind before it begins on the road. And every great achievement was once nothing more than a thought. So when this video ends, ask yourself one question: if the mind that created my current life can create this reality, then what kind of life could a new mind create? And perhaps the answer to that question is hidden somewhere inside your next 30 days. If this video awakened something inside you, a thought, a realization, a quiet truth you've been avoiding, don't leave it behind when the video ends. Carry it with you, into tomorrow, into the next decision, into the next version of yourself. And if you're committed to beginning this journey today, leave a comment below. I'm starting to reprogram my mind today. Not for us, for yourself. As a promise, as a declaration, as the first piece of evidence that change has already begun. And if you want more deep, thought-provoking ideas about psychology, discipline, philosophy, and personal transformation, join us on this journey. Subscribe to the channel. And remember, your life does not change the day your luck changes. Your life changes the day you change the program running inside your mind. Because every future begins there, in silence, in thought, in the hidden code of who you believe you are.